This is a call I got from my state senator's office, and it is a very strange call. The guy on this line, this senator's representative, he, after every time I speak, he gives a very, very, very long pause, like a 10,000 minute pause. It's like he doesn't hear anything I say. And whenever anybody gives you the 10,000 mile stare or the 10,000 minute pause, that's a problem, man. This is a big problem. He doesn't hear anything I say, and then over and over and over, whenever I'm done saying whatever I'm saying, and I'm very clear, very direct, and you get to hear it yourself, then he starts to go into denials. Well, we have no authority. I'm not familiar with these things. How are you not familiar with these things? You're not. And then finally he says, well, tell me what you want. And I tell him very directly what I want. I want you to write a letter to the FBI and request or demand a search of all 8 properties immediately, because obviously the search that was done was false. And so finally at the end, after all these long pauses, very strange, he's not hearing anything, a bunch of non sequiturs, he comes out with non sequiturs. There's one point where he asks me a question and I literally cannot understand what he's talking about because he's so far off topic, so far off base. I have to ask him over and over, I'm not sure what you mean, okay? Because he's emotionally and intellectually as far away from me as he possibly can get, okay? If he can physically leave the room, okay, and stick his fingers in his ears and go la 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 la, that's what he's doing. He doesn't want anything to do with this conversation. And finally, at the end, he says, well, there's nothing we can do. And basically he just hangs up. And that's the conversation. Disturbing. This is where your tax money goes, folks. This is where your tax money goes. You should be upset. I don't know why they're burning down buildings in these liberal cities and smashing windows. It's a mystery because they're so helpful. I'll give you a short summary of where we are now before we get into the raw audio of this call, which is disturbing. Okay, so right now, I called the governor's office, and it's in front of the supervisor of the West Virginia State Police, Jan Cahill, now. I realize that it's been in front of him before. Now, very recently, which that's not good, okay, very recently, there was a fake half-wit search of one of the 8 properties identified. I identified 8 properties where there's bodies buried, and I'm an eyewitness to bodies buried on 6 out of 8 of these properties, and I'm a witness to some murders. I'm only a witness to murders where I was intended to be murdered, okay? How are these serial killers caught? Inevitably, one of the victims escapes, and they go and they get to the police and they tell the police, this guy has bodies in his house and he's murdering people. I am that victim. I am the one victim who escaped these murderers, and the son of the main serial killer, my father, okay? And the other main serial killer, my brother. How do you know your father? I've been asked this question by the West Virginia State Police. How do you know your father? How do I know my father? How do you know your brother? How do I know my brother? Is that a real question? Okay, these are fabulous questions. So they did a fake half-wit search of one of the properties. They did a very limited search of the main property, and they used a whole bunch of West Virginia resources. West Virginia Criminal Investigation Division, West Virginia State Police. Well, bad news, homie. There was one West Virginia State Police officer and one Berkeley Springs officer at every burial, every crime I saw committed in West Virginia, those 2 officers were there. Now, one time I saw a Berkeley Springs supervisory police guy show up when they were trying to murder me at the Tanner's house, okay? And then another time when they were trying to murder me and bury me on the 49 acres, a county, this is Morgan County, West Virginia, a Morgan County officer showed up. They were in the process of trying to murder me. The guy up the hill called it in that they were trying to murder me, and so he's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, they're trying to murder me. Get me out of here. He's like, well, as long as you're okay, and there's nothing I can do. And then he left and he says, I was never here. Okay, so the county officers know about it as well. So the fact that they will not act to dig up these bodies indicates that these crimes go very deep into the various police agencies of the West Virginia State Police. Okay, and there's bribes everywhere. A lot of people. How are these bribes given out? They're given out as scholarships. So I can pretty much guarantee you that there is a scholarship from this stolen money, my money actually, for first responders in the West Virginia police forces. Okay, and that's how my father got away with it. Now, how should this go? How it should go is the Jan Cahill, the supervisor of the West Virginia State Police, he should immediately search all 8 properties and let the chips fall where they may, if he's a police officer. Okay, you go and you do a legitimate search of all the properties, and I'm there and everybody's there, and I want to bring the media now because it's not like I don't trust you or anything. You let the chips fall where they may. If you dig up bodies, and you will, then you continue your investigation. You say, well, who killed these people? And I'm over here raising my hand saying, I know who killed these people. I'm an eyewitness to countless felonies associated with these murders, and I'm a witness to actually some of the murders themselves. I'm a witness to felonies associated with approximately 60 of these murders, multiple felonies, kidnappings, rape, torture with a blowtorch, mauling by dog, stabbing, shooting, you name it, a lot. And most of it happened at my childhood home. I was in touch with another top guy in the West Virginia State Police. He got me in touch with a sergeant in the state police, and I was going around with him. Simultaneously, I had an international media contact from the Associated Press, and he was calling, and all he wanted was to walk the properties. Hey, he's calling all the police, let's walk the properties. And I gave this guy's name, the state police officer's name. Call this guy, this is the guy I'm working with. He called that guy. Nobody would call him back. First time he's been in the media for 25 years, never, ever happened before, will never happen again. Something is rotten in Denmark. This guy, my media contact, tries for months to just walk the property. He's not even demanding search warrants. Just have the police meet with him and they'll walk together on the properties and see what they see. Okay, because this is West Virginia, man, they shoot you. Okay, he doesn't just want to walk the property without permission. It's trespassing, maybe he's going to get shot, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so he wants to go with the police. That's logical, and then everybody's a verifying witness. Okay, didn't happen. The police would not do it. Absolutely would not do it. Complete stonewall. Okay, finally, after a couple of months, my media guy gives up. As soon as he gives up, the 2 officers that I'm talking to in the state police, suddenly they call me, they call me because they don't want to email me. They don't want to put anything in documentation. Okay, so here's a rule. If someone won't tell you their name, they're a serial killer or a child molester or both. Okay, these guys are so sketchy, man. They won't tell you anything. They won't put anything in writing. Why? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, it's a mystery. It's a mystery why they won't put anything in writing. That's not nefarious. They're not committing crimes. No, they just don't put anything in writing. Okay, yeah, that's on the up and up. Yeah, because that's how the criminals act. Okay, that is how the criminals act. As soon as my media contact guy gives up, they fake walk the properties. They say, oh yeah, we walked the properties. And so I'm grilling them. I'm like, okay, where's the property? How did you take any pictures? Where, what did you see? And it's just all this bland BS. They didn't go anywhere. And I told my media guy, and he's like, yeah, they didn't walk the properties. That's BS. They never left the office. Next, so they fake walk the property. Then they fake search the properties. They fake search one of the properties. Okay, so they keep documenting that nothing is there. They keep fake documenting that there's nothing on the properties, but they didn't search the properties. Maybe they did search the properties. That's even worse. But they're fake documenting that there's nothing on the properties. All I want is a legit search. Every inch of that property and all of the 8 properties identified must be searched, and I want to be there, and I want the media there.
And it's not because I don't trust you, and it's not because you won't put anything in writing.
Okay, so here's the audio. Raw Dog Daddy, go get your knee pads. I'm gonna give it to you straight up.
Yeah, get back in touch and see if there's any way we could be of service here. You want to give me a quick rundown of what your concerns are? What's going on?
Sure. Okay, so, all right, so I sent an email through your constituent services contact thing. Okay, so I should be in your system. So basically, what is going on is I do have an open FBI investigation. And recently, about a month ago, I just moved, so there's a delay. But anyway, about a month ago, they did a secret search of one of the 8 properties. So I identified 8 properties, okay, where there's bodies, and I'm an eyewitness to like bodies buried or interred on 6 out of 8 of these properties. And the people primarily responsible are my father and my brother, and then they have a gang associated with them, and I've identified all of the primary gang members, and I can give you their names. And I do give their names in the email. So what happened is, about a month ago, they told me this, I didn't see any of it happening. Without telling me anything, and I'm the primary witness, they went and they did a search. Okay, they did a very selective search, and then they said, oh, well, we didn't find anything. But they only searched one property. They only searched very selectively on that one property. Why would you just search one property? That's ridiculous, okay? And who are some people that I know are buried on that property? Well, there's the cyclist from the Montgomery County Fair. He's buried in the upper field. I know exactly where he is. He's above the pond. He's before the church cemetery. In the slaughter shed, 5 steps from the side door, under the floorboards are not nailed down there. There's the guy right under the floorboards. That's a young man. We went, and everybody knows about this in Berkeley Springs. We went deer hunting. My father tried to shoot me multiple times that day in front of 20, 30 guys. The ranger, the police guy in green, he came, he made motions like he was going to arrest my father, then he didn't arrest him. So that's that guy. In the center of the barn, there's a NIST engineer. He died, he was exactly 46 years old. He had tickets to Thailand. He worked at NIST. And he retired from there on the early out, the Vera. Anyway, that's where he is. He was buried 3 times, and he ended up in the center of the barn. First, he washed out of the creek. At the back entrance, there's a whole bunch of most of the bodies back there. There's a Jewish doctor and his 7 children and his wife. I'm a witness to all events except the burial. I'm a witness to the shooting, the stabbing, the binding, the kidnapping of the Jewish doctor. There's another boy named Mark who was standing right next to me when this happened. Then my father invited the wife and the 7 kids to come. Oh, I know where your husband is. I'm a witness to the kidnapping of the wife and the 7 children. And then my father and his gang called and purchased tickets using their credit cards from my home. And this came up with the police, and they were very suspicious about that, but they got away with that. So there's all these records, and all of those people. Plus, there's a mulatto boy and girl who were buried there. Plus, I'm pretty sure the dwarf from there's a dwarf man from the Isaac Walton League, and he killed a bunch of people from the Isaac Walton League. He killed a bunch of people from NIST. The dwarf from the Isaac Walton League, I'm pretty sure is buried on that property as well. Although I don't know where he's buried. He's probably buried in the back. So, all right. Okay, so to summarize, that's a lot of words. To summarize, this search they conducted is fake. Okay, they're covering up. This is all BS. I know those people are on that property. I know where they're buried on that property. They should have had me there. And why in the world would anybody fake search one property when I identified 8? You execute search warrants on all 8 properties simultaneously, and you get it done right. That's not what they did. They're covering it up. And that's why I'm contacting you.
All right, can I ask why you reached out to the FBI first about this? rather than police and sheriff?
Why did I reach out to the FBI? Say that again?
I was just curious. You said it was the FBI that you had been in contact with.
Yes. Okay.
I was wondering if you had reached out to the sheriff or your police as well.
To the sheriff where? In West Virginia?
Is that where the property's located?
There are 5 properties in West Virginia. There is one property, 205 Tulip Drive in Maryland. A Boy Scout is buried there. There's a property in D.C. And I know there's some bodies there. I'm not sure who those people are. They were actually going to bury me there. They tried to murder me in D.C. and bury me on that property. And there's one location in Virginia. Okay, and that's the only location. I don't know the exact address, but I can find it. It abuts the battlefield. It abuts the battlefield, and they think they're being sneaky, and they actually buried the bodies. I know who the woman is, and this is the same when they murdered the guy, the young man from the deer hunting. That was like a subsequent day. They murdered a waitress from a restaurant, and they tortured her, raped her. She had a baby in her stomach. They cut the baby out. They actually buried her on the battlefield property itself.
I see. And
Do you see how long these pauses are? These are 10,000-minute pauses with the 10,000-mile empty stare. And then he doesn't hear anything I say.
I just wanted to ask again, you were primarily in touch with the FBI about this, not local police in those jurisdictions?
I have contacted everybody.
They would also have searching authority.
I've been contacting everybody. Everybody. I've been contacting everybody. And currently, and I also had an international media contact contacting everybody from the Associated Press, and they stonewalled him. So he was talking to all the West Virginia State Police, and they just stonewalled him. And he said, gosh, this has never happened, that the police wouldn't. He just wanted to walk the properties, and the police just completely stonewalled him. But yes, I've spoken to everybody, and all that has shaken out of the shaker at this point is these 2 FBI agents. That's the only thing that has shaken out. And the whole thing with them is it's odd how it's going on. It's been going, I've been in touch with them through my uncle, okay? Why aren't they contacting me directly? Why aren't they speaking to me directly? They're speaking to me through my uncle. And I said to my uncle, I want to talk to these guys directly. Have them call me directly. Give me their numbers. I'm going to call them up. They won't do it. So the whole thing is odd. Doesn't that seem odd to you?
It certainly could. To be transparent, so we, as a Senate office, we don't have investigative authority on matters like this. So I'm personally not familiar with law enforcement matters such as this, but I'm just trying to figure out the best.
Okay. Well, let me tell you what my goal is. My goal is I want an immediate search of all 8 properties. Okay, I want search warrants executed, and I want an immediate search of all 8 properties. I want to be present for that search, and I want my safety guaranteed. Okay, that I want an officer to, be with me at all times so that no one can detain me or arrest me during any of this, because there are people who will want to do this. So that's what I want. I want an immediate search of all 8 properties. Now, I'm not asking anybody to believe me, okay? There are either bodies there or there aren't. And I believe that the 49 acres that they searched, they're probably destroying all the evidence. There may be nothing there. My only hope is that there's so many bodies on the 49 acres that they can't dig them all up, they can't destroy all of it. That's my only hope.
Sure. Well, And do you mind if I ask your address, sir?
Sure.
All right, wonderful. So just as I mentioned before, I hear your ask, and there's nothing that I see that we can do to directly help you out there. Like I said, we don't have investigative authority. We don't have authority to direct the FBI to conduct their investigations certain ways. Like I said, I'm trying to look at other forms. I would encourage you to reach out to sheriff, state police for these properties, anyone who would have jurisdiction, and hopefully they can help you out a little bit more directly.
Okay, here's what I would ask you to do then. I would ask.
Well,
I'm sorry. What was your last?
I'm sorry, I was just saying, I'm sure a lawyer who's familiar with these issues would be able to give you good advice as well.
I don't know. I don't know about that last comment. Okay, here's what I would ask you to do. I would ask you to write a letter to your FBI people and ask them to look into it. Because they will look into it if you ask them. I was in government 25 years. I retired from the federal government. Okay, so I know about government.
Yes, sir. Well, I'll be sure to pass that along. I do appreciate you calling in today.
All right, thank you.